Today, we become legends.
Today's Titan Talk showcased a bunch of stuff coming to Smite 2 in the OB6 update next week, as well as some interesting Q&A, and of course the Merlin in-game reveal. I won't be covering Merlin in this video as I've already got a full in-game showcase for him up on the channel in its own dedicated video, and there's a lot of stuff to cover from today's Titan Talk besides Merlin, but I'll leave my link to that video down below for those who haven't seen his reveal yet. First up, some of the new skins coming in OB6 were showcased with Base Cannon Neath and Heaven's Rave Zeus as classic skins. Unfortunately, the tech isn't in the game yet to have their global emotes, but it will come eventually. High Honor Milan and Dawn Spirit Yemoja are coming as cross-gen skins, so of course if you own them in Smite 1, you'll get them when the update launches. If not, boot up Smite 1, close it and return to Smite 2. That usually fixes most missing cross-gen skins. And finally, for skins in this update, there's going to be a brand new Smite 2 skin in OB6, which is Stumbleblade Susano, which is a toon-style skin with cell shading that is apparently a lot easier to do and looks a lot better in UE5, which is really cool. But there's more. This skin is also the first prism skin in Smite 2, which is a lot like Colorforge from Smite 1, but the colors are specific for the prism skin, not global dyes like in Colorforge. So they can't be used across every prism skin, but each color is a bit more fleshed out and custom compared to Colorforge. However, the prism colors do have to be bought individually for diamonds on top of the base skin. Really cool new system in my opinion, and I'm excited to see more skins in this style, or even some crazier modular elements in future skins like I always seem to talk about with like modular weapons and armor pieces and stuff. I'd pay a premium for that kind of stuff, and it's exciting to see this sort of tech being pushed in UE5 for Smite 2. Speaking of Yemoja, she's getting an aspect in OB6 which aims to shift her more towards a damage playstyle, with her 2 no longer affecting allies, so she loses that heal and shield, but it will instead bounce between enemies and provide a stacking intelligence buff on hit. It will also continue to do increased damage to shields, so she'll be a bit more of a shield counter with the aspect. Additionally, Moonstrike, which is her alternate form 1, won't stun with the aspect, but it has increased intelligence scaling on the center hit. Next up for OB6, we've got some new items coming to the game, with the first one being Vampiric Shroud as a new starter item. This will be very much the same as Smite 1's version as a sort of magical bruiser option that heals you on hit with abilities. The upgrade is going to be Bloodsoaked Shroud, which is again the same as Smite 1 where the heal turns into % max health. However, Bloodsoak does have a small addition in Smite 2 in that every kill you have increases the heal by 0.1% max health, which is pretty crazy. Runeforged Hammer is also making a return in this update as a bruiser option. It costs 2600 gold and comes with 40 strength, 400 max health and 5 health regen, which is already pretty nutty base stats. And the passive is a little different to Smite 1 Runeforged, but still themed around hard CC. When you hard CC an enemy god, you mark them for 5 seconds. Basic attacking that god within those 5 seconds deals 50 plus 50% of your item protections as magical damage. The cooldown on this is 40 seconds, but hard CCing enemy gods while the effect is on cooldown reduces it by 3 seconds, once per god per ability. This seems like it's going to be completely broken just from how it looks on paper with the base stats and the effect and all that, especially for auto attack cancelling bruisers with easy access hard CC in their base kit like Thor, Thanatos and Achilles. But the damage does scale mostly off of protection, so it might not be quite as good as it looks for bruisers building a bit of damage, more so for full tanks who can amp up that damage by slamming a full protection build. But the final new item coming for OB6 is going to be Anchile, which costs 2450 gold and comes with 60 magical protection and 250 max health, which is already a very solid stat spread, beating out most magical defense options for pure tankiness at the moment because of its combination of max health and magical protection. In Smite 2, Anchile has both a passive and active effect. The passive just makes you straight up take 10% less basic attack damage from all sources, and every basic attack you take reduces the active effect's cooldown by 2 seconds. The active is your next ability that damages an enemy god will silence them for 1.5 seconds on an 80-second cooldown, but of course this can be decreased by the passive. This is pretty cool, but once again seems like it will be really strong. It's got better base stats and a longer silence than Gargoyle, which is already a decent item in itself, and it has the additional effect of reduced basic attack damage, which is admittedly a little bit weird on a magical defense item, but I guess this would be a good counter to stuff like Barry and Sol. Moving on from items though, multi-filter is also going to be in OB6, so you can now filter the store by multiple categories, for example lifesteal and strength, or intelligence and cooldown, which is really nice. But there's still more OB6 spoilers to go over today. Next up we have some Conquest art updates, which look really sick in my opinion. They're fairly small additions, not a complete art overhaul or anything, as they've said they want to just keep building upon the current map and update things as they go. Since the map is really not very nice looking at the moment, and waiting 6 months to a year for a new map and being stuck with this one in its current state wouldn't be ideal. The updates coming in this patch are for blue buff shown here, which looks really great in my opinion. You can absolutely see the difference in the before and after, where it was just boring rocks with no way to identify what buff it even is, whereas now it's got the blue theming and that really cool toad statue to showcase how solo laners play the game. Red buff is getting the same treatment, with it going from boring grey rocks box to a sort of shrine with, of course, red theming throughout, so you know and can identify that red buff spawns there. Plus, it just looks sick. Big improvement from before. And finally, purple buff is getting the same treatment with a bit of a witchy swamp kind of theme with some sort of like totem faces carved into the wood, which is really sick. And of course, purple lighting and theming throughout to easily identify what spawns there. All of these buffs look so good now, in my opinion, and hopefully we keep getting small art updates like this with every new patch. The Conquest map visuals are really one of the few things in Smite 2 that are just so much noticeably worse than Smite 1, in my opinion. But if these kind of changes can be made throughout the whole map, it's going to close that gap really quick. For those wondering about speed buff, that actually did get an art update quite a while back and already looks pretty identifiable, so it didn't get an update here. Though I will say these new camps do look quite a bit better than speed does currently, so hopefully at some point speed can get a small update to bring it on par with these new ones that look absolutely amazing. Kilgoon mentioned something about a general movement, smoothness, and netcode pass, and apparently they've been working in the background for months to address this, but it's not quite ready yet. It should show up in a flash test at some point when they're ready to deploy it. If you're wondering what exactly they mean by this, Kilgoon gave an example of like when you're running up against minions and getting body blocked, it can feel very jittery and weird. This new system they mentioned should address issues like this and many others with the general movement and feel of the game. That's about it in terms of OB6 spoilers, but man, this update seems to be a game changer. Merlin looks awesome, the new Conquest art is an amazing step in the right direction, the new items all look cool, Yemoja aspect is dope, the new prism skins have a lot of potential in my opinion. Some really cool stuff coming, but let's finish up the video with the Q&A section, which will be a bit shorter this time as they spent the first 50 minutes or so spoiling things for OB6 and only had about 10 minutes for questions, but there were still some pretty interesting ones, so let's jump into the Q&A. Someone asked about the had fun prompt at the end of the match lobby, and Kilgoon basically said it's a way for them to collect large amounts of data and analyze it to find out what causes a match to be fun for players and what causes one to be unfun, besides just winning or losing, obviously. Someone asked for a grid and snap function in the HUD editor, and they said they know it's missing but didn't want to hold back the whole system for smaller features like this, but it will be coming at some point. There was a question about using the prism system to allow for multiple god recolors, and they said maybe, but it does take work to make prism stuff, as they are all custom handmade models and aren't quite as copy-paste as the Colorforge system was in Smite 1, but it's something they might consider doing at some point down the line. There was also a question about adding prisms to already existing skins, and they said they'd be open to that if there was enough community demand for it and they sold well, because of course the prisms themselves do cost diamonds on top of the base skin price, so they would still make money from going back and adding prism varieties to older skins. Someone asked about a prism chest to unlock random prism colors for these skins, and Kilgoon basically said no, at least not right now, because of the way the skins are implemented. Each prism in the game files is basically its own skin, and so if you rolled a prism for the new Susano skin from the prism chest, you could just use the skin without technically owning it. This could change in the future, and Kilgoon also said they could potentially tie prisms to progression in some way, so that like using a skin or doing certain things with it unlocks specific prisms for it. Honestly, there's a lot you could do with this system in my opinion, and I think UE5 is probably doing a lot of work in this regard. Someone said Baron aspect when, and they said they're still not sure. They wanted to go back and work on it a bit more to make it truly unique, so it won't be an OB6, maybe OB7. There was a question about direct purchasing music packs, and they said they want to do this in the future, but they don't really have a way to do that right now, as the store page isn't really set up to have stuff like that. Someone asked about additional passives to anti-heal items like they got in Smite 1, and they said it's on the list but not super soon. And finally, there was a question about Divine Legacy skins for brand new Smite 2 players, as they currently can't get them. They said they do plan to make them available for purchase at some point, but wanted to keep them exclusive for Smite 1 players for a while to have them feel a bit more special. But that's everything discussed on today's Titan Talk, except for Merlin, I guess, but I've got a full video on him if you want to check that out. A pretty huge show today, with not only the Merlin reveal, as I mentioned, but 2 new aspects, 3 new items, Conquest art updates, new skin tech, and loads more. Super hype update in my opinion, but let me know down below what you guys think of all this new stuff coming to the game in about a week. Catch you guys in another one later on. Have a great day, and peace out, you nerds.